So it's a great pleasure to introduce you to Nicole Pfaller today.
Thank you.
She's one of our PhD students in quite advanced stage of her PhD, I think.
Well, let's judge that. Let's talk about that later then, after the presentation.
Nicole has a particularly interesting topic because she's working with owners of animals. Very often, a lot of our research is not owners, obviously, but caregivers of children. And Nicole has really paraphrased that and sort of said, well, the owners are really the caregivers of the animals, and in her case, particularly dogs, because I know you just love them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely adore the dogs.
Yeah.
So she's going to tell us about her research, and I'm just really looking forward
Part
to
of it, yeah.
Part of it,
Part of it, yeah.
So, welcome, Nicole. And
Thank
also,
you.
I should say that Nicole flew in from Vienna this morning or last night?
Last night.
Last night.
Yeah.
So Nicole is based in Vienna, or just outside Vienna,
Yeah.
and is one of our international visiting PhD students. So that's also something we do at the Centre, PhD supervision on campus or internationally online. So we do quite a bit of stuff. And,
Yeah.
and it's
Good.
It's been great to have really high caliber PhD students coming to us. So over to you, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the lovely introduction. And Carola, it's great that you're back. Awesome. I hope you're feeling good. Yeah, good. So thank you. Thanks for everyone who's interested in my passion, which turned into my profession. As you may have already read in my short CV, Lynn was kind enough to circulate, and Carola was also kind enough to circulate around you guys. I'm amazed that the topic of dog owning and dog training generates such a large interest. Before we start with the content, I would first, before I forget, because I also have it here in my little cheat sheet on the side, I would like to thank Lynn for organizing everything and for the lovely email exchange we had. Thank you so much for organizing everything. Thank you. And and before we start with the content, I would like you to ask, or I am asking you a question. How many of you are owning a dog right now? Ah, awesome, great, cool, okay. So, and how many of you, the ones who are owning dogs, have, or also the other ones, the people that are not owning a dog, I mean, who cannot own a dog? I mean, this is just, but okay, you're excused. So, who has experienced jumping up? Jumping up off a dog? Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? Yeah, especially if you wear thighs or any other type of clean, nice clothing, and then the mighty dog comes up and you are all a mess. So jumping up is something that is really a problem, not only to the person who's being jumped upon, but also to the person, to the owner of the dog or to the caregiver of the dog, because typically we get all embarrassed and apologize. So jumping up, as mild and as benign of a behavior it appears, it can be a major stressor for the owners. So that's the reason why, or this is one of the reasons why I chose jumping up as my first target behavior for my experiments at first place. So just to give you a little bit of context. So, I mean, I know you've all experienced this kind of seminars and this kind of, or different kinds of conferences before, so you basically know the outline of such a presentation. Nevertheless, let me just briefly run you through what you can expect from today's presentation. So, first I will give you an introduction and just to provide you with a little bit of context, and again pointing out why this work is at all relevant also within the field of behavior analysis. Then we are going to have a look at my pointer just died. Oh no. Never mind. I'll give you an overview, or a more detailed view of the methods used, in specific the design that was used. Then we are heading to the results section, showing you figures of the data that came up, and also because my participants, after they finished the functional analysis part, which I'm going to show you today, they also answered a short 10-item questionnaire on the social validity, the social acceptance of this type of procedure, because it's interesting to know what do the owners actually think about the procedures we try to get them to comply with. So what do they actually think? And this is another interesting result which I'm going to present you today. And then we finished the presentation with a brief discussion and limitations and conclusions of what I have found so far. So, starting with the introduction. So why dogs? I mean, there are a number of different companion animal species, and you may ask yourself the question, why dogs? Why not cats? Why not study horses? Or why not study cattle in this regard, or any other domesticated animal species? The reason why I chose dogs is, of course, one part of it is because I'm really passionate for dogs and I love dogs. I own 7 dogs myself, so the love of dogs is really huge in me. And this is one part, of course, but on the other side, humans and dogs share a very long history together. I mean, when I say very long, we have to think in thousands of years. Tracing maybe even some studies, some anthropological and paleozoological studies trace based on burial sites and old bones they dug up and investigated, trace this cooperation and this cohabitation actually back like into the Paleolithic period, where early humans lived as hunter-gatherer societies, and apparently, and this is quite an interesting fact, not only lived together with dogs, but also, or with early dogs, but also hunted cooperatively with those proto-dogs or early dogs or wolves, kind of wolves. So this is very interesting, and also should highlight the relevance of why the human-dog relationship is so special, because actually it was the first domesticated animal species at all, overall. So this is really interesting. And these relationships, of course, changed over time. So with all the different millennia and all the different human developments that have happened in between the Paleolithic period and modern times, contemporary times, the relationships with dogs also changed. And what has been found in more or less recent studies is that contemporary dog owning also has many benefits for dog owners. For example, different studies highlighted the benefits of exercising with dogs. Walking the dogs is keeping us humans, us dog owners, active. I just recently, I think yesterday evening, I stumbled over a study that investigated the usefulness and feasibility of dog walking with elderly persons and dogs. So this is really interesting, that dogs help us keep fit and keep to our exercise schedule. On the other hand, on a more psychological approach, dogs can help with social support. They can prevent loneliness in people. And again, just a couple of days ago, I received a newsletter by QUB. Who has also seen it? Maybe some of the students. I received a newsletter, and when I scrolled down, no, not this one, it was just an email, but thanks for pointing out. It was an email stating, Gareth, you may have heard of it, of this program, it's really interesting. Cuddle with a Cavalier. Who doesn't want to cuddle with a Cavalier, especially if it's four-legged and the full breed name is Cavalier King Charles Spaniel? So this is amazing. Speaking of social support, preventing loneliness, getting in touch with somebody else who's also interested in dogs. So this is really a great program. And if I remember correctly, there's also, or not only one, but there are several studies that are highlighting the value of, and I think one was actually done here at QUB at the School of Psychology, highlighting the fact that certain type of breeds result in more social attention from other people. So speaking of social relevance and all these types of interactions, dogs can be helpful. Just as a side note, and I mean this is not, I'm sorry that I'm slightly, I got the flu last week. So I was like totally ill, and these are the the last things left from the flu, so I'm sorry if I'm breathing a little bit odd. Sometimes I'm okay. I'm not going to fall down, but just let you know. Sorry. So what was I going to say? Never mind. Let's keep on focusing on the stuff. Anyway, so it's not all as fun and as interesting all of these studies are, and highlighting the fact that dogs can be really helpful and benefit people. It's not all, sunshine, glitter, and unicorns, of course. Dogs can, and frequently do, develop and display all kinds of undesired behaviors. I know it because I work professionally. I work with dog owners whose dogs have developed such issues, and the range from behaviors we see, of undesired behaviors we see in dogs, can range from kind of mild, obnoxious, not really, dramatic, although this depends, of course, behaviors like pulling on lead or jumping up, to really like sort of life for the owners, also life-changing behaviors like fear-related issues, separation-related issues, anxiety issues, fear of loud noises, and even such a small noise like this could eventually freak a dog out. So these are really behaviors that are very, very difficult to handle for owners. And then we also see several or interspecific aggressive responses, which means, thank you so much, Lynn, that's awesome, thank you. And so inter and intra specific aggression cases, like when dogs are displaying aggressive behaviors like growling, snapping, or biting with contact, with skin contact, either with other dogs or towards other people. So these are all behaviors that are typically seen in behavior, animal-related behavior practice. So interestingly, another study I wanted to show you and I wanted to point out to you, maybe it's interesting for some of you, that Gray and Diller in 2017 conducted a survey including certified behavior analysts, the one group was board certified behavior analysts, and the other group was certified companion animal behaviorists. Like in the UK, you are very fortunate because you have these certification program, which is by the study ASAP.
Association for Study of Animal Behaviour.
Thank you. And that is basically certifying animal behaviorists. So this is awesome. We don't have this in Austria, which is really unfortunate. So, so these groups of people were surveyed by Gray and Diller, and not so surprisingly, they found that both groups work within a similar framework, and they found several commonalities between these two groups. With one of the most important one, I think, and I think all of you can relate, is the focus on positive reinforcement for treatments. Okay, so this is really awesome. And so this is just something I wanted to point out to you. Then something that has been shown, and something that I also experience in my own practice with colleagues, for example, is that while the function-based approach is a standard approach and is very, very common, fortunately very common, in the human-related behavior analytic field. However, in the animal-related behavior counseling, behavior practice, we don't see this as much. And this is also reflected by the amount of studies that have been conducted using all sorts of functional behavior assessments, because there are only 6. 6 different studies have been conducted with animals across several species, but primarily primates and dogs. Interesting, isn't it? Primates and dogs. So only a handful of studies has shown that functional behavior assessments can be done with animals. And this is especially astonishing because these functional behavior assessments are so common in the human-related behavior analytic field and profession that this is, for me, this was really surprising that there is not more done in this regard. But we are getting there. We are picking up pace. So maybe for those of you who are not so familiar with all those terms, functional behavior assessment is the umbrella term for different assessment approaches that can be done for figuring out the function of, so bluntly speaking, why the learner is displaying the target behavior, in our case the undesired behavior, and what we have subsumed under this umbrella term are like indirect. So I start with the approaches that have sort of the least value for investigating the real function of a behavior. So we have those indirect measurements, indirect approaches, which are questionnaires, surveys, rating scales, and these indirect methods are used more and more in the animal-related field, but as I said, there are a couple of limitations that come with those approaches, with one of the most prevalent being that this is done in hindsight, in retrospective, and that you are questioning, that you are asking or interviewing the owner about what is going on with the behavior of the dog. So this is not that valid as if you go in and observe the behavior directly, which brings us directly to the next approach, which is the direct measurement, or the direct the direct observation and taking notes, for example, by using an ABC assessment. What is done is that you go into the setting, look and observe at the dog's behavior, take notes on antecedent and postcedent events, so basically what is happening right before the target behavior occurs and right after the target behavior occurred, and you do this multiple times, and then you hopefully get a clearer picture of what is actually going on in this in this setting. So we have this kind of, and the ABC assessment is just one approach in this regard, in this observational approach, of one of those observational approaches. So, and then there's a third method or a third approach that is subsumed under the term functional behavior assessment, and this is a more experimental approach, which is called functional analyses, where we repeatedly and knowingly and planned bring the target behavior into contact with presumed reinforcement. So this is what I have done with my participants in this part of the study. So what I was actually doing, or what the owners were doing, is, for example, when the dog jumped up, we hypothesized that paying attention to the dog by talking to the dog and providing tactile attention to the dog may be a variable, a consequence that is maintaining that specific problem behavior. And so these are the different approaches. And interestingly, as I previously pointed out, is that only a couple of studies have been conducted with with animals. So Dory, Farmer Dugan, and Martin, all of them investigated functional analyses with primates in the zoo setting, while the following studies, these studies over here, investigated functional analyses with companion dogs across different settings and with different experimenters or different people conducting the functional analyses. Dory, for example, which is very similar to what I have done, was conducting herself the functional analyses, but within the domestic setting, within the house where the dogs typically lived. And Hall also went to the home settings, to the domestic settings where the participant dogs lived. However, there was a mixture between either one experimenter conducting the functional analyses or some of the owners conducting the functional analyses. On a completely different page is the functional analyses that were conducted by Winslow and colleagues, who went into a shelter and conducted functional analyses there with the dogs living in that shelter. So a whole lot of different, or not a whole lot, but several different settings and also different approaches on who is actually conducting the experiments, the functional analyses. I'm telling you this because I was not able to find one single study, of course, because this is all what's around, where the owners conducted the functional analyses. So this was another interesting layer of my project. Of course, the owners were not left alone. I was there giving guidance and feedback throughout the functional analyses. But as you can see, this work really adds to the literature and is also an important step to get across the message into the companion animal behavior counseling field, if you want, to get more focus on function-based approaches. Because so far, most of the practitioners go in, may observe, may ask questions, but the treatment or the training is most of the time not directly related to the function, because people simply lack skills in this regard. Practitioners lack the skills. So this is something that is really really close and dear to my heart. So I already touched up on this, so the aims and the objectives of this study were I'm so sorry, were several, namely first investigating the feasibility and effectiveness of the functional analysis procedures with the owners and their dogs, and the resulting functions inform the treatment, which is the next step where I'm currently collecting data on, and see if what's coming out of this approach, and then investigating the social validity and acceptability of these functional analysis approaches with the owners, because ultimately they have the ones that needs to be happy. So. And also the dogs, but I'm touching up on this later on in the presentation. So with that being said, let's move on to the method section. But before we go into more detail on who's who and what behaviors were used, I would just like to, just for the sake of completeness, point out that ethical approval was sought and gained way back in 2017 for this study, or for the whole bunch of different experiments, and that all participants were completely informed about the purpose and the approximate duration of the study, and they also of course signed a consent form, an informed consent form, I believe. So they are all things covered, and they especially, and I talked to them about this presentation today, so they are all happy and really, they think it's really cool that their dogs and them are being shown today. So, and then they're going to be on video as well. Oh, this is so awesome. So all these safety things are covered, and let's go on with who is who. So diet number 1, and I call all of my participants diet. I don't know, I just started using this term at some point. So and they are listed or they are numbered according to the point of entry when they entered into the experiment. So obviously diet number 1 was the one who sent back the first screening form at first, and then successively all of them entered the study. So diet number 1 is consists of a male Cocker Spaniel, 3 years of age. He's intact, and he has a female owner. She is between 31 and 40 years old, and she has 2 dogs, a 12-year-old Cocker Spaniel female, and this Cocker Spaniel Calimero. And Calimero has all sorts of different behaviors in his repertoire, but the owner chose sit and hand touch as the behaviors, the requests we are using during the demand condition, as the ones that he has learned. I think she said he has learned them as the first behaviors, and a new behavior was weaving through the legs of the owners while she walks. This is quite cool and quite hard, because she was moving, she was walking, and the dog is supposed to weave through her legs, and this is a challenge because falling over the dog is very likely, but she managed beautifully, so we don't see any owners fall. Yay. Then diet number 2 is a mixture breed female, 4 years of age, also with a female owner, also between, the owner is also between 31 and 40 years old, and this dog, Juno, is the first dog of hers. This dog also, we had really big problems finding a new behavior because this dog is so well trained in regards to tricks. She can do a lot of different tricks, like, I don't know, dozens of different tricks on cue, and it was really hard to come up with a behavior, with a cue that she struggled with, and one of those was bag. Okay. So bag. Then diet number 3 is another very interesting diet, a very interesting team. It's a Dutch Shepherd, Hollandse Herder, male, neutered, also 4 years of age, also with a female owner, slightly younger than the first ones, between 21 and 30 years old, and the owner lives with multiple dogs. She and her father are also breeding these type of dogs, so she also has a lot of experience, and the dog also has a lovely repertoire of different behaviors. However, they always struggled to learn bow. Everybody clear what bow looks like, the behavior? Bow? No? I'm trying to model. It basically means that the dog is putting down the front part of the body on the floor, dropping the chest on the floor while the butt is staying up in the air with straight hind legs. So it's a bit like a yoga pose. And so this was the new behavior Yogi, the shepherd, was taught. And then we have diet number 4, a miniature poodle, female, also intact, 3 years of age, also with a female owner, slightly older, 51 to 60 years of age, and the owner also had previously multiple dogs, and she currently has 2 dogs, the poodle and a golden retriever, and she is breeding with both dogs. So both dogs already had this poodle, I think she had 2 litters so far. So unfortunately with the poodle, she didn't have a lot of behaviors in her repertoire. The best 2 were sit and down, so the 2 classic behaviors, but the owner wanted to teach the dog to touch her hand, so we used this one as the new behavior. And then we have diet number 4, also a mixture breed, 12 years of age, female, neutered, with a female owner, similar age as the owner of dog number 4, and they also had multiple dogs previously, but currently there was only this dog in the family. This owner also said that the dog does not have a lot of behaviors in her repertoire, which is unfortunate, so we also settled with sit and down, and the new behavior was paw. Okay, so these are the participants, and you're going to see a couple of videos later. So as with most of the functional behaviors, with the functional analyses procedures, most of them are based on the seminal paper by Iwata and colleagues. I believe the original study was conducted like in the early 80s, I believe, but this one is the 1994, I think, is from a special issue on functional analyses, I believe. So I just put this one in here. But and of course this was with humans, but the current study, this functional analysis, is mainly based and a little bit adapted from the study done by Dory and colleagues, also with with companion dogs. So let's have a look at the different conditions. I also used 5 conditions, namely attention, control, demand, ignore, and tangible. We are having a look at the different conditions later. This is just to give you an overview. And all those conditions were one session. So one condition was one session, and the session lasted 3 minutes. So and the whole functional analysis for the day was done when all 5 conditions have been completed. So Something that's also important, because I wanted to control for a kind of sequencing effect, is that the presentation of those 5 conditions happen on a truly randomized order. So I used the Excel function of random numbers and randomly assigned the sequence of the conditions for each session and for each diet. So this is different for not for every cycle and for every participant, obviously, for every diet. So, and for the display and visual analysis of the data, a multi-element design was used. Yeah, so I think we can go on with the different conditions. I listed them in alphabetical order, just out of convenience. So the data collection started as soon as the owner walked into the room during this condition, and we can see the Cocker Spaniel Calimero waiting for the owner. And this is a video showing you the attention condition. The owner did not pay attention to the dog until the dog jumped up on the owner. And as soon as the dog jumped up on the owner, she provided attention in form of vocal and tactile attention, and for 10 seconds, and after that 10 seconds she ignored the dog again, and as soon as the dog jumped up again, she provided attention again. And this kind of play, this sequence progressed through the whole 3 minutes of this condition, of this condition. Then as soon as the 3 minutes were over, the owner went outside the room again, or in this case outside the flat, outside the apartment. So let's have a look. Is this working with this? No. Okay. Let's have a look how this looked like. Jumping up. And you can see that this dog already had some training. Yeah. Jumping up, attention for 10 seconds. Okay, and this is where I gave her feedback that 10 seconds had elapsed. Calimero's body language says, "This is so fun. This is so cool."
He's looking at you so funny, tell him to stop.
Okay, so this goes on for the 3 minutes. So attention condition, he definitely gets the hang of it. Okay, so yeah. So the next condition I would like to introduce you to is the control condition, which could also be labeled play condition, because in this condition the owner walked into the apartment or the room with a different toy, and immediately gave the toy to the dog, and the dog had access to that toy for the whole time of the 3 minutes. Plus, the owner paid vocal and or tactile attention to the dog every 10 seconds. So just to have sort of a control to see how the dog responded to having 2 presumably two very important reinforcers basically freely available. So this is the control condition, and this is going to be really wild what you're going to see. Don't be shocked that this dog is play growling a lot. So, but you can see that the dog is bouncy and there's no stiffness in the muscles and the joints, and also the gaze is diverted. So when you see a truly aggressive response, that this would be much stiffer and the gaze would be directed at the threat. So this sounds really wild, but it's totally okay. So oh yes, and this was the thing I just told you about the reinforcement of being freely available, and was true in this with the toy. Is true for 4 out of the 5 dogs. The procedure for dog number 5 was a little bit different in this condition, because the owner told me up front that her little dog, the 12-year-old mixture breed, wouldn't play. The reason for this may be found in the history of the dog, because the dog was living in Spain as a feral dog with the mother and I believe 2 other siblings. They were caught, brought to shelter in Spain, and then flown to Austria and adopted there. So it's very likely that the dog just doesn't play because of this history. We don't know, and this is not my job to figure out why the dog is not playing. Just as an information for you. And so we used a slightly different approach. We used attention, vocal attention, and tactile attention in this control situation, in this control condition for her. If you like, I don't have the time to show you all the videos, although I would like to, because it's always fun to watch videos of dogs, but I'm running out of time. So yeah, let's have a look at the wild one. And I'm also giving a little bit of hints for the 10-second intervals. See the blinking. I think it's a Gordon setter in there, Gareth. Could be, yeah. Okay, so I think you get the idea. So control condition, I don't know why this is beeping. So then the next condition is the demand condition I would like to introduce you to, which was quite difficult for the owners. So I needed to give a little bit more help, especially with the time sequence here. So the details were as follows. The owners requested 2 responses, for example, sit and down for this little poodle, that this dog already knew and had in her repertoire, and they also decided to teach one unknown behavior, as we've already discussed, and in this case, in the poodle's case, it was the hand touch, which means touching the owner's hand with the nose. It's a very cute response. And so when requesting the unknown response, prompts like a hand signal or alluring with food was used. And well, I'm mentioning this in the discussion then. And so these requests were presented in an arbitrary order at the owner's discretion. If the dogs complied with the requests, they received a treat. They received reinforcement in form of an edible, of a treat. If they did not comply with the request, the owner waited for 5 seconds and then repeated the request until the dog eventually responded and showed the required behavior. If at any point the dogs jumped up, the owners turned away from the dog, leaving the request, so letting the dog escape the request, turning away, waiting 10 seconds, not paying attention, and then after the 10 seconds turning back towards the dog and cueing a different behavior. Okay, so this was the demand condition. Let me just see if I forgot anything. No, I think that's it. Okay. Unfortunately, we do not see the poodle jump up here in this video, but just that you get an idea of how this looked like with the poodle. The poodle. I don't know why she's shouting at the dog here. Blood. This was the hand touch. She cued a sit. That's why. She was very generous with the treats. Okay, so different behaviors. Okay, and then this is the Hollandse Herde, the Dutch Shepherd. I apologize for the quality of the video recording. It's a little bit dark in there. So this is the ignore condition. Basically, the owner walks into the room and does not pay attention in any form to the dog for the whole sequence, for the whole duration of the 3 minutes, which the dogs really did not like. And there's a cat. Just he's wearing a safety harness, just in case you were wondering, because he's also displaying very severe intraspecific aggressive responses. So she makes sure that he cannot escape and bite another dog. A little bit of displacement behaviors. I don't know what's going on. This is strange. Okay, so not paying attention to the dog, really. Okay. Okay, so the dog is displaying all sorts of behavior. So jumping up and getting access to the preferred item for 10 seconds. And from all those dogs that are participating, he is the one with the most training, because the owner is also engaging in gun dog training with him. And we have a little bit of background noise as well. The owner has a son, and he was behind me. He was watching television while we were playing with the dog. His words, we were playing with the dog, of course. Okay, so Calimero and his ball. So, of course, for validity reasons, myself and in general, we conducted inter-observer agreement calculation. We used, or I used, it's always only me, I used this type of formula for calculating the actual inter-observer agreement, and the person who helped me with this part of the study was a master's ABA student from the University of Parma, and we did this distance-wise. So I uploaded her the videos and she scored them. She was informed and of course trained in regard to to be able to recognize when the dog displayed jumping up, because something that I have not told you yet, and I realized that this was a mistake, I have not yet told you the definition of jumping up. Because jumping ups can have a whole different sorts of topographies. Jumping up can look like this, like a kangaroo, without touching the owner's body, or as we've seen with the dogs in the videos, with body contact, either with the paws or with any other part of the dog's body. And this is really important, because of course, if we're not clear in what to look for, we get not only a very bad or very low score of inter-observer agreement, but it's also a problem later on for data analysis. So let me just briefly tell you what my definition of jumping up for this study was. It was lifting the front paws up off the floor in at least ankle height of the owners, and additionally touching the owner's body anywhere up from the ankles. Okay, so depending on the size of the dog, of course, mostly the dogs touched them with the paws here on the thighs, on the upper thighs, but the Hollandse Herder, for example, and also the other mixture breed, the larger mixture breed, Juno, they had a certain kind of topography where they spread their front paws, and I'm not sure if we saw it on the video, and touched the owner's body with the chest. So this would also qualify as a jumping up for the study. While just jumping up like this, not touching the owner, I'm sorry, this video must look jumping up just like this would not qualify as a jump for the study. Okay, so would not have been counted as a jump. So yeah, overall we had total I have 70 video recordings, and out of the 70 video recordings, more than a third of the videos were used for inter-observer agreement calculation, which meant that 25 videos were second coded, second scored by Daniela, and this calculation yielded an agreement score of 96%, so which means we had only one disagreement. Okay. So, and as if this wouldn't be enough, no, I've also asked my participants after we finished the functional analyses, so what do you think about this approach? And the questionnaire I used for this type of questions, for this type of investigation, was an amended version, a revised version of the treatment acceptability rating form. As I said, a revised form. This was used for this purpose of getting information from the caregivers, from the parents, I believe, in the study of Langthorne and McGill from 2011. And of course I had to amend this type of questionnaire to suit my needs for the dog owners, because the wording was quite different, or in some of the questions the wordings were different, so I had to change this a little bit. So this modified version I used contained 10 items, and we're going to go them through in the next table. And participants had to rate 9 out of these 10 questions using a Likert scale ranging from 1, I strongly disagree with the aforementioned statement, to 5, I strongly agree with the aforementioned statement. As I said before, this questionnaire was sent to the participants, to the owners, after they finished the functional analyses, and I used a certain type of freely available online tool that sent the web link via email, and the owners could conveniently just click on the web link and access the questionnaire. And I also had, based on my experience with the master's thesis, where I physically handed out those social validity questionnaires, I wanted to try this approach because I had a feeling that for the other approach that people may have been a little bit more hesitant in rating these questionnaires, so I feel that this type of more anonymous approach is helpful for the owners, but I could be wrong. It's just a personal thing I've seen or I've noticed, I believe. So I think this was helpful to let them do this in front of their computer or wherever they were answering this questionnaire. So what were the questions? Here they are. Just briefly, question or statement 1 was, I find this approach, so the functional analysis obviously, to be an acceptable way of assessing my dog's undesired behavior. Item number 2, I would be willing for this procedure to be used again to assess my dog's undesired behavior. Number 3, I like the procedures used in this assessment. 4, I believe this assessment is likely to be effective in identifying the factors that cause my dog's undesired behaviors. Number 5, I believe my dog experienced discomfort during the assessment. 6, I believe the assessment is likely to result in permanent improvement in my dog's undesired behavior. Number 7, I believe that other dog owners whose dogs display undesired behaviors are likely to benefit from this assessment. Number 8, overall, I have a benevolent or positive opinion about this assessment. 9, I think, and this one was especially important to me, I think that the time commitment and efforts I had to put into this assessment method were acceptable. And then the 10th item, which I added because I felt that it's always good and beneficial to give the participants the option to provide their own observations, their own feedback, or feedback in their own words. I included this 10th item stating, please state any feedback that you would like the researcher to know. And only one participant filled this one in, stating it was all perfect. I don't know who it was, but okay. So that's the questions. Which brings us directly into the results section. So just to give you, because we were stating on the previous slide, I was telling you that I was especially interested in if the owners felt that this long, I think it was a long time, that this long time commitment they have to do with this kind of approach in this case was too long, or maybe not. I gave you a little bit of clue on how long we worked on this functional analysis with each and every diet. So diet number 1, the Cocker Spaniel, had 5 cycles, completed 5 cycles within a date range of roughly 4 weeks. So we met once a week, and something that I would be really cautious if I had to do it again is steering clear of Christmas time. Yeah. Anyway, so diet number 2, number of cycles completed 4 out of 4. Also within roughly 12 weeks, not 12 weeks, but Christmas time and 4 weeks. Diet number 3, also 4 cycles, again roughly 4 weeks. Diet number 4, 7. And the data will show that there's something not going the way it should. 6 weeks, roughly. And diet number 5, number of cycles completed 5. Also roughly between, also the date range about 4 weeks. So I thought this is an interesting table. So, and this is leading directly to the results of the functional analyses. So the right figure here displays the data, of diet number 1. So figure 1A is from diet number 1, the Cocker Spaniel, and B is from Juno, the mixture breed dog, the larger one. So, while these data clearly show the condition, or the condition that set apart from the other conditions, namely the tangible, with a large gap here in between the different data paths of the different conditions. I think this is a very clear and typical sort of thing you hope to get when you do a functional analysis, while the data here from diet 01, it shows more variation, especially the condition attention, which is this one over here, this square with the square sign. And I'm not exactly sure what happened with this attention condition, because if you look at the other conditions, especially the tangible, but also all the other conditions, they are relatively stable. Also, the tangible condition is set apart from the other conditions. So it's really interesting what happened with the attention thing. My best guess at the moment, but I'm really looking forward to what your ideas are on this figure, is that because Christmas time was around here, that something that somehow this change in routine may have had an impact on the dog's behavior. On the other hand, we don't see so much variation in the other conditions, so I'm not sure what happened here. So interesting nonetheless, because only 2 of those 5 data points were higher than the tangible condition data path. I decided to go with the function of tangible and kind of ignore this up and down, this bounciness of the attention data path, because I'm not sure what happened here with the attention. So, as I said, diet number 2 is, I think, very, very clear. Okay. So these are the data of diet number 3, figure 2a, diet number 3, and figure 2b, diet number 4. So this is the Dutch Shepherd dog, and this is the poodle. And also here we have, especially in the control and the ignore condition. Interestingly, now that I look at it, the shepherd dog displayed jumping up in each condition, whereas the other dogs, there are some conditions where the dogs didn't show jumping up. So this is interesting, that he really jumped up in every condition, also in the demand condition, in the demand condition, and but also what's really nice here is that the tangible condition sort of differentiated from the other conditions. However, the attention condition is also similarly high. So in this case, I would really loved to have done more cycles with this dog, just to see how this tangible condition and especially the attention condition, how this is, if these conditions are leveling out, and just to see how this progresses. The data of diet number 4, as I said, is I don't know, all over the place. I'm not sure. Definitely here is some learning going on in the tangible condition. I'm not sure. In the conclusion, or in my for me in the results, I stated that this is not conclusive. I don't know if you agree. It's not conclusive, yeah. So I don't know, maybe it would have been better to just pick maybe tangible condition and attention condition, and use after this kind of a reversal design, and do a couple of repetitions, and then or a couple of sessions, for example with the attention condition, and then start with the tangible condition and then do a reversal. I don't know how to proceed with this. I'm really looking forward to your input. So, and here's the results of the last diet. The little Spanish mixture breed dog, where we used a slightly different approach for the functional analysis conditions. Recall that we used going out on the leash in the tangible condition, and for the control condition we used verbal and tactile attention instead of using toys and additional attention. So attention, the data path of the attention here is also upward, I would say. And also, interestingly, I don't know if you agree, but if you look at this data path here, it's the ignore condition. So for the treatment, for the intervention with this dog, we use the attention as the reinforcer. And if you think from the dog's perspective, ignore, so getting no attention, is related to attention. So I think that this data path of ignore for this little dog kind of makes sense. Also, the control, which was different for her, remember paying attention to her, and also a little bit of learning going on as well. So interesting development of this functional analysis with this little dog. And as I said, I used attention as the reinforcement for the for the successive intervention. I don't know if you agree. Something that's really nice and stable here is the tangible condition, going outdoors. However, going outside, because this needs a little bit more time than getting access to the toy, may have limited the amounts of the jumping up in that certain condition. So, and of course the results of the questionnaire. So when you look at the graphs, when you look at the bars, we have here the different colors code the different ratings, the different ratings the owners addressed to the different questions or items. So 5 out of these 10 items were answered by "we strongly agree with the statement" here, and I think this is something that's worth pointing out, especially pointing out, namely question number 5, which, if you recall, is the question: "I believe that my dog experienced some discomfort within the treat or within the functional analysis conditions." And here we have one person that stated, we have several people that stated "we strongly," strongly disagree, strongly disagree. So they stated that they don't think that the dogs experience discomfort, and we have one person stating "I strongly agree with this statement," which is okay. I mean, if the participant felt that the dog had stress and felt discomfort, that's very important information to get. However, it's also possible that with this kind of questions, nodding, that the person just misread the question. But yeah, anyway. Okay, and then we have some agreements, and some partly agree with the different items, like maybe this colorful bar over here is question or item number 6. Do you think that, or I believe that that this kind of procedure results in a permanent improvement of my dog's undesired behavior? And I mean, the people who stated, or actually it was only one person that stated partly agree or agree. I mean, this makes totally sense because they don't know yet. So, yeah. I think overall this is a very good result, and states that the owners are absolutely on board with this type of procedures. So the discussion. So maybe just to sum it up, for 3 of the subjects I decided, or based on what I've found, I decided an increase in jumping up was found during the tangible condition, while one dog displayed slightly more jumping up during the attention condition, and one dog showed high variation in patterns, and also with some drop to near zero jumping up in the middle of the functional analysis procedure. So that's interesting, and I have a hunch what might have happened, but I'm not sure. So yeah, I mean, for this dog, for diet 04, from what I recall is that the owner, that's the poodle, the owner found it very hard to follow the instructions regarding these procedures. So I think this is something that we can see in the data as well. And she also, when she paid attention to the dog, like when she tried to pet or stroke the dog, the little poodle, she made very quick movements, which made the dog flinch and lying on its back. So and this happened 3 or 4 times. So it is just a hypothesis, but it is entirely possible that these fast movements towards the dog, and I mean, she's a bigger lady, so, and the small dog, that this was aversive enough for the dog to stop responding. So that's why we saw this drop. It's an hypothesis, I don't know. It's just something that I noticed when I watched the videos. So, yeah. So, again, with the Hollandse Herder, with the Dutch Shepherd, it's entirely possible that both functions are happening with this dog, like attention and tangible. And also something that I noticed, and might have been a better approach to this problem or to this condition, is that when the dog is engaging with his or her toy, as soon as you start moving towards the dog and cue the dog to release the toy or to give the toy away, you pay attention to the dog. And this may have confounded this findings with within the tangible condition. So a resolution to this problem may be that if I would repeat this type of experiment, that I have multiple toys somewhere, like hidden in a bag on my body somewhere, and or external from me in a box, for example, that the dog is jumping up to get access to a toy. He gets the toy, moves away with the toy, and then after the 10 seconds, I show up different toy, and the dog may or may not retrieve or just spit the other one out to jump up and get access to the additional toy. So and during this 10 seconds I have the time to pick up the first toy and put it back into my box or into my rucksack or whatever. So this may have been a better approach. I don't know, somebody has to try it to see a difference or not. We'll see. So yeah, and also, and I think I gave you a hint into this direction also, I mean, we are dealing here with adult dogs. Dogs that are at least 3 years of age. This is adult for a dog. So, and the oldest dog is 12 years. So all of these dogs had at least a little bit of training. So this history, this learning history, this background may have also played a role in the results of this functional analysis. And something that's also interesting for the one amongst us that are more into the canine related literature is that it's stunning that those participants with the smaller dogs, that these dogs had way less behaviors in their repertoires than the 3 participants with the middle-sized or larger dogs. So this is also interesting, and it fits, Gareth, you know, it fits totally the literature that owners of smaller dogs do less training with them, which is really unfortunate. Okay, so yeah, there were a couple of limitations. As I said it before, ideally more cycles per diet may or should have been conducted in order to obtain clearer results. Also, maybe a slightly amended durations and intervals may have also yielded clearer results. For example, Dory, I used 3 minutes for the condition and 10-second intervals. Dory and colleagues used 5 minutes for the conditions and 20 seconds intervals, while Hall, the one with the stereotypic behaviors, used 10 minutes for the duration of the conditions and also 10-second intervals, while the study conducted in the shelter setting used 5-minute interval, 5-minute sessions, or 5 minutes for the conditions with intervals of 5 seconds or 20 seconds, and they also used 2 minutes, 2-minute breaks in between the sessions. This was not necessary for my study because I did always only 1 cycle per day. Okay. The reason for, I mean, I could have conducted these experiments faster, but I wanted to, as much as possible, adjust to the schedules of the participants. And it turned out that participants in this case had 1 day during the week where they were available. So that's the reason, that this also adds to the longer duration, because Dory and colleagues, for example, they needed only 11 days. Okay. Yeah, and also using, this is something I took over from the Dory and colleague paper, namely using edibles as reinforcement during the demand condition. I'm not sure if I would do this again, because people tend to keep the food in their hands, and then some of the dogs jumped up because they wanted to get access to the food, and this is confounding. So I would do this again. But I mean, I told them to put the food in the pocket, or maybe, I don't know, use, if they use a treat pouch, for example, they could use it. One owner used, 2 owners had the food in the pocket, And I think this worked much better, but still, I think I would just not use food at all in this kind of setting, unless this is a research question, of course. But in this case, it wasn't. So the current functional analyses study confirmed that it is absolutely possible to conduct this kind of procedures with companion dog owners and their dogs, and this is in line with the previous research that has been done, although there are only 3 studies with dogs, but it adds to the literature. And the something that's also interesting is that the owners that not only that the owners found the functional analyses acceptable in their found it acceptable to do it with their dogs, but also that we kind of found the maintaining variables of jumping up, and which can and hopefully does improve the efficacy of the successive training stage. And just because we're talking about it, and because I'm currently in the process of taking data, oh God, is I'm dating my participants now, is that at the reinforcers we have identified during this stage using in the treatment, in the training, and it's really effective. So jumping up was within a couple of sessions reduced to 0. So it's helpful, fortunately. So yeah, what's next? As I said, behavioral skills training and non-contingent reinforcement with the identified reinforcers is currently done. I would like to have a look and analyze the dog's behavior during the functional analysis conditions, because I've asked the owners, what do you think about this procedure? And now I would like to know what the dogs are displaying, because ultimately I want to help the dogs. And one part of helping the dogs is to know and to analyze if they are displaying any kind of appeasement signals, of stress signals, and if so, then maybe we have to adjust for dogs this procedure a little bit. It's going to be really interesting what the dogs are saying in this regard. And then also I would like to run maybe a couple of statistical analyses just to see what the statistics say to this results. So first and foremost, I would like to thank my participants, the 2 and the 4-legged, and you can see them here. This is dog number 5, Bonita, dog number 2, Juno, dog number 1, Calimero, dog number 4, Coco, and dog number 3, Yogi. And I would also like to thank Daniela Cardillo from Italy, who was so helpful with the inter-observer agreement calculation and second coding and everything. So, and most importantly, my bunch, my gang. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I happily answer them if we still have time.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for a really detailed description of your study. Is it published? Is it about to be published? Have you submitted to journal?
It's not published yet. It's not submitted yet. I have to write it up.
Good. Okay. So you're close to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
That might be helpful.
Yes.
What you said, how you conceptualize the results and why the variations, and
yes.
I think your points and the limitations are valid. So you're very well thought what might be happening there. Yeah. Another thing
Mhm.
was you already mentioned is that increased people might have more time for their dogs.
Yeah.
So then motivation for attention might be lower because they already get attention. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's maybe you've already written that, but that's something to consider. So if
Absolutely.
people were able to tell you when exactly they were on holidays,
Mhm.
then maybe on your graphs you can shade these days and see, is that having an
Very
effect?
good
Just
idea.
being more at home.
Yes.
That's one idea.
Mhm.
And another thing is really a question. What's the difference between the ignore and the attention conditions?
So during the ignore condition, the owners went in and just stood there, not looking at the dog, not in any way paying
There was
attention.
no consequence after jumping.
No, exactly.
So that sounds like the antecedent-based functional analysis, which is what we did in the field ages ago.
Okay,
And then we moved on to the antecedent and consequent one,
right?
which is what you've just described.
Hmm.
Plus, when the dog jumps, we give attention.
Okay, so but then what is the difference between this you just said and the actual attention condition?
To me, it sounds from what you've said
Mm-hmm.
that both conditions test the same function. But one
Mhm.
tests it through an antecedent
Right,
functional analysis.
yeah.
The other one tests it through the classical both antecedent and
Okay,
consequence
mhm.
manipulation.
Okay,
But I believe both test attention, right?
yes.
Because it's the same motivating operation.
It is, it is, it is. That's why I was not surprised to see that with Bonita, I believe, the Spanish dog, that the ignore data path increased because it's related. That's what, if I understand you correctly.
So maybe,
It may be. Mhm.
you want to discuss with your supervisors, would it be worthwhile combining data from these two conditions
Mhm.
and see, or just looking at those? Because the ignore condition, if I understood correctly, is not the alone condition.
No, I didn't have an alone condition here because it
That's also
didn't.
social, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So is there another difference that I didn't pick up? Is there a difference in the function that these two conditions test, or they both set up to test attention?
From what you said, I think they both test attention. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's something
Yeah.
we're discussing because
Mhm.
in the loan condition, for jumping up behavior is really irrelevant. So
Exactly.
do you provide the stimulus for, but you're not moving that stimulus.
Exactly.
So it might be, you could consider it to be that alone condition as well because attention is now provided. But it's something that needs to be discussed.
Mhm. Excellent. Thank you so much for pointing this out. Thank you. Sure.
How long did you leave between the conditions?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Just on one of the graphs, the one that was up,
Yeah.
I noticed that both data points for the high for attention were after a tangible.
Which one? This one? Bonita or
The first one.
the first one? This one?
Yes, if you see, so it was tangible attention, and they're both up.
Tangible is this one,
Yes.
and attention is this one. Exactly.
So could it be like a kind of sequencing of, does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Could be. Could be. I need to look. I can't tell you from the top of my head which because they were randomly assorted this condition, so I can't tell you what. Well, actually, I can. So 20 here. The session 20 was a tangible, and this was ignore, demand, control, and number 16 where it went to 0, no jumping occurred here. It was attention, and prior to this it was ignore.
Could it be kind of like
But I can't tell. I can't tell you the dates.
I see.
So because there was always 1 week in between, so I would have to look up. It's a very good point and a very good hint for me to go back and view it in my raw data in the combination with the dates when I was there, similar to what Katerina just said. Yeah.
Might be an idea to color code or just
Yes.
do a little bit of a grey
Yeah.
background on the, so that you can see which functional analysis were taken one day.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
a white
exactly.
one and a grey one. So
Exactly,
just do
yeah.
a little bit. That would make me
Yeah, yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Okay, I'm very aware that we've got the room booked until past.
Wait, I think there's nobody else
Is it
coming in.
Okay.
I just want a quick question,
Sure.
from a practical point of view. If the main problem with jumping up is with other people, do you actually train the dog, you remove that behaviour yourself, and then you take the dog out, and if it's attention, then
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. What to do exactly? So after we finished the intervention part of the study, so the next step in the experiment, what I would like to do is a generalization test to see with a different but familiar person, how does the dog respond to this stimulus walking into the door. And the reason why I decided to use this setting with the door is that previous studies from the field of applied ethology and veterinary behavior have shown that jumping up occurs mainly, so indoors, if it happens indoors, around the entrance area. So this is the reason why I chose this type of setting. And so I'm going to test how the dogs are able to generalize the learned skill to other people. But basically, because we are dealing with a situation where the dogs are in their homes, what is entirely possible is that when people expect visitors, for example, that they put the toy outside, and just before knocking or just before entering the house or the apartment, one of the guests could pick up the toy and walk in and give the toy, for example, to the dog. And then typically when they have their mouths stuffed, they are less inclined to jump up. So, thank you.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure. Just before you go, I just wanted to thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was really interesting. And I forgot to thank a very important person for Nicole in particular. Gareth is her second supervisor, and he's held the fort for the last 6 months with this work, and this is quite detailed work and slightly probably outside your comfort zone.
It is, as a biologist.
As a biologist, but really nice to be working with you and Nicole, because we're working obviously with this kind of work we're working cross disciplines, so we really value your input, and I should have mentioned you earlier on.
Thanks
but that's why Nicole was referring to Gareth a couple of times for
Yes.
his specialist expertise, which is really, really valued in this work. So thank you very much, Gareth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for attention.
Probably around if anybody wants to come.
Yeah, well, of course, sure. Yeah.